My experience, if you try to acquire land without a lawyer, there's no chance of success. I mean, the likelihood that you would have made a mistake is way higher than otherwise.
I'm going back to where I belong. You're the reason why I'm singing this song. Boy, I did you no wrong, but you broke my heart. I'm going back to...
Hi guys, and welcome back to our channel. I'm Yaba and we are Ghana Bound. Today I'm with Emmanuel and I'm going to get him to introduce himself and his company.
Hi, my name is Emmanuel and I'm the managing partner of Emmanuel Law Consults, a boutique law firm in Accra, Accra. I specialize in real estate and infrastructure law.
So thank you so much for coming to join us.
Thanks
One
for
of the
having me.
main questions we get asked from customers who are looking to buy, move, invest in Ghana is about the lands. It's about the law of the land. A lot of people have been stung and have had problems when they've come to buy here. So we thought it'd be a great opportunity to talk to you. You are the professional. You can explain some of the mistakes they can avoid and hopefully help many people break down some of those barriers to come.
Sure.
So we're going to jump straight into the first question. So we're going to talk about the legal process of buying a house, from beginning all the way to moving into your home.
Okay.
How does it work in Ghana?
Well, I mean, I would want to start by defining what land is in Ghana. So in Ghana, when you say land, it means the land and everything that is attached to the land. So anything that you cannot take away if you are leaving the land or the soil is part of the land. So the house is part of the land. So when you say land, it includes the building on the land.
Okay.
So that's one.
Yeah.
So the way of acquiring land is the same as, this process is the same as acquiring a building. It's just that when there's a building on the land, then it has further requirements. So first of all, let's start with acquiring land. So my advice to my clients is firstly that they get a lawyer, because in my experience, if you try to acquire land without a lawyer, there's no chance of success. I mean, the likelihood that you would have made a mistake is way higher than otherwise. So I advise that you go by a lawyer, and I mean, after this, by the end of this exchange or discourse, you would understand why. So before you buy land in Ghana, you ought to do a search at the Lands Commission. So this is the commission responsible for recording the interest of everybody who owns land in Ghana.
Yeah.
So in Ghana, when they say interest in land, so we have different kinds of interest in land.
Okay.
So not to complicate things, but we have the allodial interest. So allodial interest is the person who owns the land forever.
Okay. So they completely own the land forever.
The land forever.
Okay.
I mean, for eternity, indefinite period. Then we have the customary freehold. This is someone who owns the land forever, but it could determine, there's a possibility that, they could lose the land because they maybe fail to pay allegiance to the allodial owner. So these customary freeholders are people who may belong to a community and decided that they are going to settle on a part of the community's land and develop it, and then it becomes theirs.
Right.
Because traditionally, or before the advent of colonialism, you didn't really have to pay for land. Land belonged to the community. You could just settle on a piece of land. If you can cultivate 20 acres, 20 acres is yours.
Oh, good times.
Yeah, so customary freehold, that's it.
Yeah.
Then they have common law freehold. This is a freehold that is acquired by means of the common law. Common law is the law inherited from the UK. Yes. And then we have leasehold interest. Leasehold interest is owning the land for a definite period of time. So it could be 50 years, 99 years, something like that. Then we have the customary tenancies. The customary tenancies are the farmers. Usually farmers are given customary tenancies. So for them, they plant crops on the land and then they pay the rent by giving a portion to the owner. I mean, whoever gave them the land or the grant. So that's a customary tenancy. And these are the only registrable interests in land in Ghana. I mean, registrable interests, because there are registrable rights as well, but not to come, but there's registrable interests. So the point I'm trying to make is that all these interests can exist on this piece of land that we are on.
Okay. So my question is this, because this is one I get asked regularly about freehold land.
Yes.
Can you get freehold land in Ghana still?
Well, now it's impossible because there's a new law which was passed in 2020. So it's 2020, but the law in 2020 makes it impossible for you to get freehold land from the chiefs. So in Ghana, when you say chiefs, you can also use stool. So stool and chiefs are used interchangeably, or some people would say kings.
Okay, but it's the same thing.
But the same thing, the same concept.
Okay.
So when you are acquire stool land or land belonging to a community which has a chief, that land you cannot have more than 50 years. Yes.
Wow.
And then if you acquire family land, which is land belonging to a family or a clan, you cannot have more than 50 years also. And this is under the new law, the 2020 law. However, the only entity that can give you a freehold interest is an individual. And that is, the presumption is that the individual owned the land, the freehold interest, before the law was passed.
Okay, as long as they owned it before the law was passed, they can still pass it on.
They can pass on a freehold interest. But other than that, for Ghanaians and foreigners alike, the chances are you're going to get 50 years. So for Ghanaians, there's no rule like the foreigner. With foreigners, there's a rule which says that a foreigner can only own land for 50 years at one time. And after 50 years, it's subject to renewal.
Okay.
What I advise my clients to do is that for the 50-year period, that 50-year lease, they ought to negotiate the renewal in that lease.
Okay, so as they sign,
so in that lease, I would expect you to put the renewal terms in that lease. So for instance, I would expect that in that 50-year existing lease, you ought to have a clause which says that at the end of the 50 years it will be renewed, the rate at which it will be renewed, I mean the amount, the terms. If the terms are not going to be the same, I would expect you to include the terms in the existing contract. If they are going to be the same, then we'll just take it that we are applying the terms in the existing contract to the renewal. But if not, ensure that those terms are all captured in there, because it's imperative that whoever is going to inherit the property knows what the terms are and also what the rates are, so that it doesn't become a burden.
So the rate should be determined at the point of exchange, so that they know in 50 years it will cost this much.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, that's
really
what I advise
point.
my clients to do. The other point I was going to make is that, so that's with foreigners, but with Ghanaians, the practice has evolved that now even Ghanaians are getting 50 years. Yeah. So if a Ghanaian goes to the Lands Commission for a lease, Lands Commissions, they are the managers of government lands. So in Ghana, the land types are, or those who can own land are government, the chief or the stool, or the kingdom. Yeah. Then we have the family, and then we have a clan, and then individuals, and then also corporate entities.
Okay.
The most secure land is government land, because government keeps good records. So government lands have records on them. The kingdom or the stool do not keep good records. Okay. Unfortunately, from time immemorial, they have not kept good records. So sometimes when you're doing the transaction, you have to go back and ensure that the records are done properly before you even the conveyance is done.
Okay.
Families have also not kept good records. I mean, they are even worse. And then individuals or developers do try and keep records because they want to be able to sell the land. So they also, but when it comes to security of security of tenure and stuff like that, I strongly advise that you get government land, because they are the ones who register all lands in Ghana. Yeah. That's the Lands Commission. They manage government land. So if you want to buy government land, you deal with the Lands Commission. Straightforward. And they are the ones who register the interest in all the entities. So if it's stool land, if it's family land, clan land, all those things are captured in the records of the Lands Commission. Okay. So increasingly, Ghanaians who have gone to the Lands Commission for leases have not been able to get more than 50 years from the Lands Commission. And because of that, the other entities are following suit. So the clans, the families, the individuals and developers, they are also giving 50
years.
Yes, because it's a
so
it's a business.
Ghanaians are not able to get a 99, 80.
Well, yeah, rarely. I mean, if a Ghanaian goes to a Lands Commission now, chances are he's going to get 50. If you go to S2 or clan, I mean, if it's in a prominent area, you are not going to get more than 50 years. If it's in a good area, if you go maybe outside Accra, outskirts, then maybe you could get something a bit longer than 50. But 50 is gradually becoming the norm for both Ghanaians and foreigners alike. However, when it comes to renewal with Ghanaians, the renewal is now automatic under the new law. The renewal is implied for Ghanaians. So if you're a Ghanaian and you buy land and you're even given 50 years, it is implied that you get a renewal. But I strongly also advise that those terms are negotiated in the lease, even if it is implied.
Okay.
Yes.
But for a foreigner, you say you must make sure it's written down as a clause that it will be renewed.
Also, the same applies to foreigners as well. Yes. Foreigners, the renewal has to be express.
Yes.
So it should be in the agreement that after 50 years, you have a right to renew for maybe another 50 years. But I advise that the terms and conditions of that renewal has to be stated in the agreement.
Okay. So 50 years is the norm, but legally, can somebody hand over 99 or 98 years? Legally, they can still do that to a Ghanaian?
To a Ghanaian, yes. That is not going to create any problem.
Okay. One other thing, when you're signing a lease and you're leasing it for 50 years, does the land actually belong to you at that point? Or at any point, can it go back to the one who sold it to you?
Yeah, that's why I told you about the interest in land. Now we have an allodial interest, customary interest, and leasehold interest.
Yeah.
So when the leasehold expires, then it means that the reversionary interest or whatever, the remainder goes back to the allodial owner.
Okay.
So during that 50-year period, the allodial owner does not own that land. The leasehold that owns the land. You get me? And the allodial owner cannot sell the same piece of land to somebody else because the allodial owner cannot give a leasehold interest to somebody. The allodial owner may choose to give the allodial interest to somebody else. But even that one is not legal now because of the law.
Okay, they can't do that.
Yes, because they cannot do that. But any interest that has been given to you cannot be given to somebody else because that would be a conflicting grant.
Okay.
And that is a criminal offense under our law, and it is fraudulent, and it can be set aside.
Okay,
by
this
the
is
courts.
really good to know.
Yes.
Even though it's a leasing system now, you have that security that you own the land for that period of time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Provided it's registered.
Provided it's registered.
It's registered, because if it's registered, it does a number of things. Registration constitutes notice to the whole world that you are the owner. So assuming your interest is registered at the Lands Commission, and during that period, somebody else is given a grant of the same land or the same leasehold interest, then what it means is that the person who took the grant had notice of your interest. So that grant is void. I hope you follow.
Yeah.
So although the person never did a search or anything, because it has been registered, the law deems that the person has notice of your interest. That's one. Number two, registration also constitutes conclusive evidence of ownership in law. So if you register your land, the law is that what is recorded in the land register is conclusive evidence of ownership. So not even the land title certificate. The land title certificate would be prima facie evidence, which means that on the face of it, when I see it, I can presume that it belongs to you.
Belongs, yeah.
But conclusively, if I want to establish that it belongs to you, I ought to do a search at the Lands Commission to find out if indeed your name has been recorded in the land register. That will show that it conclusively belongs
Great
to
advice.
you. Yeah, so
don't ever assume.
Don't assume. Yes, you ought to do a search. The second one is that I strongly advise that you also do a high court search. A check at the high court to find out if there's litigation on the land.
Okay.
Yes. If there's litigation on the land and you you are well informed. You know whether the litigation would affect you or it wouldn't affect you, or whether you even ought to join the case in order for your interest to be determined by the court. Because sometimes a court may make a pronouncement and you may not be a party to the case, but yet the people, the victor is trying to enforce the judgment against you, which is improper, but they do so. So rather, why don't you join the case? You should join the case so that the court makes a pronouncement, because if you join the case, you would state your interest and you state your rights, and you would state the processes you went through before you acquired the land. And the court will now put you in a category. And that category may be that whoever wins the case, their right is subject to yours.
Okay.
Yes, which is typically what should happen.
Okay.
So the litigation check is important. Then, and another useful search is the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority search. This is a zoning search. So it will show you whether the land has been zoned for residential, commercial, industrial, cultural,
That's very
civic.
necessary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you buy land and you cannot use it for the purpose for which you intend to use it for, then really it's meaningless. Because the law is that if, for instance, I purchase land and that land is for commercial purposes, and I put a residential building on it, it means that the grant that I was given is void.
Wow.
Yes, it's void.
Okay.
But you can also apply to the zoning authority for the land to be rezoned for residential purposes.
So once you've purchased the land, you can still apply to have
for
it rezoned. So there's
provided it can be rezoned.
Okay.
Because if the planning authority also, based on their planning scheme and everything, and for public purposes, they think that this is not something that they can rezone for that particular purpose, then you know that this is not a land you can buy. It's not possible for you to buy that land.
Okay.
So the zoning search is key. Then I also recommend highly that you do a ground rent, a search to find out whether ground rent has been paid. I started by telling you that there are different owners: allodial owner, customary owner, leasehold owner, and all that. Now, all the owners must pay ground rent to the allodial owner. You ought to atone tenancy to the allodial owner.
Yeah.
Because you are just there temporarily. The moment you fail to atone tenancy to the allodial owner, it means that you are now acquiring a different interest, which is called adverse possession. You are acquiring an interest which is adverse to that of your allodial owner.
Okay.
It means they are no longer recognizing the allodial owner. And after 12 years, the land could become yours.
Aye.
Yes. So it's a serious offense not to be paying
the ground rent.
And in fact, the law is that if you do not pay ground rent to the allodial owner may re-enter without even giving notice to you. So the allodial owner could sell the land
without giving
notice to you, because you've disobeyed them.
And by law, that would pass in court.
Yes, because the allodial owner was the first person who gave the interest out.
Yeah.
And in that document, there's an implied covenant that you have to atone tenancy to the allodial owner. And most of the time, that covenant is even expressly stated.
Okay.
So even if it's not expressed you still ought to be paying ground rent to them. So if you do not pay ground rent, then it means that you can lose the land.
Okay.
So what I recommend is that before you buy the land, you do your search to find out if ground rent has been paid. And if it has not been paid, you will ensure that whoever you are buying the land from pays the ground rent. Or you deduct that money from the purchase price and pay the ground rent.
So before you even purchase the land, you can do that search to make sure it's been paid. If not, you can say, I will deduct it. You need to pay it before I enter in.
Exactly.
You can start afresh.
Exactly. Because that ground rent is not your liability. It ought to be the seller's liability.
Right.
The seller has to give you a clean slate. You don't have to start owing. You don't pay $1 million and then start owing.
Already being in debt from day one.
Exactly.
And this counts whether you're buying land or a house, right?
Yes,
it's the same thing.
Yes, it's the same principle.
Okay.
And my experience has been that people have bought lands from 1980s, 1960s, and when you do the search, they owe ground rent.
Okay.
Some of them owe lots of money. I'm like, hey, look, you got to pay this money real quick. Because when I say, I'm like, some of the figures are scary. Yeah, it's not, the ground rent is not much. It's just the nominal rate. It could be in dollar terms, let's say it could be $1 or just something to show that, but $1 for 50 years is a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't pay
It will add up.
50 years, exactly.
And
that's
plus
a
the
lot
risk
money.
of losing your land too.
Exactly. So it could be a lot of money. So I highly recommend that search. And then there's also the new search which I've added to my list called the Customary Land Secretariat search. So the 2020 law has introduced another registry called the Customary Land Secretariat.
Okay.
And the people who do the entities that administer this registry are called the family, the clan, and the stool. All right. So every stool, every family, every clan is supposed to have this Customary Land Secretariat in its community. And it is more or less like a decentralized registry. So you don't always have to go to a lands commission.
Okay.
Because they're expecting that these families will record the transactions that they have conducted or done in their community. So once you go there, they give you the record of the transactions done. They'll even tell you who is mandated by law to actually transact on a particular piece of land.
Okay.
You know, so they've taken this decentralization. They've taken the registry to the communities. You know, so they're supposed to have this secretariat.
And every community is supposed to have this.
Yes, they're supposed to have the secretariat, and every land holding family or clan, or so it's not community, just because families can
the
own
family,
land.
rather like the stool.
Yes, they must set up the secretariat, and the secretariat must report to the Lands Commission. So every 2 months, they're supposed to send their records to the Lands Commission. So anytime they sell land, they send those records to the Lands Commission.
Okay.
You know, and they can charge you a fee for doing a search, and all the other things that you know, all the inquiries that you are required to make. They can charge a small fee for that.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, essentially that is one thing I've added to my list of.
So your office takes care of all of those searches, right? So an individual will be able to come to you guys
Exactly.
to help.
I mean, so we do the due diligence, you know, from the beginning. I mean, I assure that, look, even if the person brings a site plan to me, my experience has taught me that, look, don't accept anything from the vendor. I mean, I will deal with the vendor and don't get me wrong, but you know, this is a transaction. This is not like going to the market or to the supermarket to buy something. This is a transaction which it could affect you for 50 years or more. You know, so you have to be careful. So I typically recommend that, you know, we go with a surveyor.
Okay.
Perhaps even the vendor surveyor as well, the vendor around. So that the vendor will show the surveyor or your surveyor where the land is. Then the surveyor will pick the coordinates and do a site plan based on what the vendor showed the surveyor. Because these vendors, they have lots of land. So they can do multiple site plans and just give you one and say, but this is the land. Meanwhile, that is not the land.
Okay,
they
right.
probably may have just given you another site plan, and then all the searches and everything you may have done will not be you know, in relation to that particular land that you are buying. So I prefer that we go on the site and then we pick the coordinates and everything. And even by going on the site to do this exercise, you are more or less doing what we call an inspection, because then you can see whether people are on the land, whether the person is actually in possession, whether they are encroachers. I mean, all that stuff is, you know, is done by just doing a survey.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first part.
Okay, so Emmanuel, thank you so much again. It's been a world of information, which I'm going to apply to my life, but I'm sure you guys will too. And if you haven't already, please subscribe in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the family, and see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.